Hello there and welcome back to another review. So it's been a while, but I thought today we'd have a look at some more Studio Ghibli or Ghibli, however you choose to say it, and that is 1994's Pom Poko, directed by Isao Takahata. Now to Western audiences, the bases here are just magical raccoons, but right, this is all that's all it is, like sort of Western audiences. But in Japanese folklore, the tanuki are considered to be magical creatures that can sort of shape shift. Not only that, but their scrotums are too. So there's a lot in this movie. Unless you're familiar with that sort of Japanese folklore, you may at some points be thinking, what the hell? I mean, it's not the kind of thing you would see in a Disney Pixar animation, sort of scrotums being stretched, but put it that way. But anyway, the idea of mythical creatures like this setting against this sort of environmental allegory is sort of, it's just Studio Ghibli all over. That's sort of like right, that's their bag. Now, although some of the comedy and setup might feel a bit strange to some Western viewers, the message of the film is what resonates the most about how, when destroying the natural world, it's not only damaging to our planet, but our history as well. And whilst the film may be not as instantly classic as the more obvious Ghibli movies, there's still a lot to be enjoyed here if you are fans of the studio. I know some people say Ghibli, some say Ghibli. There's loads of different. I usually say Ghibli, but I think it is Ghibli. Whatever, the studio, I mean. But it's, as I say, there's a lot to be enjoyed here, if you are fans of the studio, even if the film is not sort of overly sort of classic. I know it sounds silly, but it might help to just take 5 minutes to read up on the tanuki before watching this if you have no idea sort of what they are, as I think you would enjoy the film a lot more. And it's a shame that when the movie was released, many people just seem to focus on the scrotum aspect, right? As much as I was sort of laughing about that just a second ago, but it's a shame that when the movie did come out, a lot of people just solely focused on that aspect rather than actually watching the film for what it is and what it is trying to tell us. I mean, this is not your typical humans are destroying our forest town. I think this is one of them Ghibli movies that is sort of divided a lot of people, but there are many layers to the movie. The fact that humans are actually killed in this film. Then we have sort of comedy, light-hearted moments in the next scene. I think one criticism I have of the movie is that I feel it's too long. I think it's much longer than it needs to be. It's the kind of movie that I think maybe should have ended a good 20 minutes before it did. And while the message of the film is a valid one, it can be a bit preachy in places, unlike, say, something like Nausicaa, that does it in an almost perfect pace of the storytelling and getting across an important message. But I do believe this film is split fans almost right down the middle through the years. Some people love it, some people think it was a complete misfire and the bulk of it doesn't work. And it's quite jarring when the tanuki, who are our group of creatures we follow through the movie, cause the death of people on purpose, to which they celebrate. And when you read more into that, thinking they could have, okay, that could be somebody's dad, somebody's spouse, it does leave a bit of an odd taste in the mouth that these creatures have just committed murder. This is actually, when you look below the surface layer, it's actually quite a dark movie. It's actually quite a dark movie, even though everything's done in that sort of light-hearted, sort of Ghibli fashion, or it seems to be, anyway. But as I say, the fact they do sort of commit murder, it does leave sometimes a bit of a bad taste when, especially, you're following it from their side. I think that is another thing with this movie, that the tone bounces around so much that it never quite settles. There isn't really one main lead either, who is sort of the basis for the story. Death is treated in a very light-hearted fashion in this movie. The tone shifts. The film is quite bloated and, as I mentioned, preachy. It's comical about a serious issue. And it's sort of an anti-business, almost anti-human film in a way. Now, don't get me wrong, I still enjoyed this movie. I mean, I will get round to review it. There's still loads more Ghiblis to review. But I can see why it has divided so many people over the years. Maybe it's the scrotums, maybe it's the fact it's too long, maybe it's the fact that these tanuki do commit murder. If I call them raccoons over the review, I mean tanuki, so that I just say, if I do say raccoons, you know what I mean. So we learn of these tanuki that stay like near humans as there is like more food. They move into this abandoned farmhouse which they flee after it gets destroyed. They do battle with this other group of tanuki as like, and as they're sort of running each other, they turn into like raccoon slash type Ewoks. And this is where the film screams Studio Ghibli. Like, you get that super light Ghibli-esque music that you come to expect. So Granny Yuriko warns them things are being destroyed because of economic growth, and to make way for buildings and structures. Have to love when they're all falling asleep. She gives them sort of McDonald's hamburgers to sort of hatch a plan. And they still a TV as they plan to sort of study humans and perfect the art of their sort, because they can shapeshift, right? That's the whole thing they can do. Even getting advised not to have relations at this point until it's sort of all over what they've got to do. And this is where, at this point in the movie, where it's just having loads of fun. Like, the females can turn, like they turn and can make it look easy, but the males are all having trouble changing, like, into a woman. Like, the females can change into a man, sort of no problem, but the males, as say, they're having trouble sort of changing into a female. And to be fair, if I was a superhero or any kind, I think that would probably be my power. You know, like, people, that's not old age questioning it, like, if you were a superhero, what power would you have? I think shape-shifting, I think, could be very useful. I think that could definitely, probably more so than flight or invisibility, I think shape-shifting would definitely be probably the power I would choose. Now, this is when you get the using the scrotum and testicles being used as like a mat for all to sit on here. And if you're totally unaware of this going in, you'll be like, okay, I didn't see that coming. Like, honestly, if you're watching this, or say you're sitting down with your grandma or something like that, and you know, she's like, okay, I want to watch that Pom Poko movie. It'd be interesting to see her reaction when it's like they're using a scrotum rug that they all sit on. But it does, when you watch it for the first time, as I say, if you know nothing about sort of these creatures, you'll go into that and you'll be like, I did not see that coming. So they go into this city to test their skills, and a lot of them can't cope and have to sort of use energy drinks, as like sort of their shape shifting is like it's very tiresome work apparently. It made me laugh how the final test is to go out and earn money, right? Because they've sort of changed into humans, like disguising their forms. Some become like monks, like beggars. Some become karaoke singers, or even impersonate labourers. I mean, did they need a CV or something, or references? I guess not. Gonta, one of the head tanuki, is fuming as his childhood home has been destroyed and wants to attack the humans. And this guy, he has a bit of a bloodlust, right? He's sort of the hothead. He's got a bit of a bloodlust going on. And this is where it's quite barbaric, when they start making these innocent drivers sort of crash their trucks on purpose, making them go down pits and skid all over the roads. So they commit murder, right? Like I mentioned, it does leave a tiny bit of a bad taste. They do commit murder. And, you know, even when they try to have a minute's silence for the dead, most of them just burst out laughing. So it's really nice, you know. Gonta wants to do more and kill more, and great, yeah, let's kill some more humans. But then, like, they start to realise, hang on a minute, if we kill more, we won't get any more burgers. I think they say that they won't get any more burgers, donuts, or fried chicken. Despite all their efforts, the humans are still going along with the development. They start to scare people off from moving or touching the forest shrines, and this is largely what the film consists of for its running time, like them pulling pranks and sort of scaring off the humans. Still funny moments scattered throughout. They pretend the forest is haunted and scare off this family having a picnic, and are like, you know, leave the leftovers, because that's all they're really concerned about, really, is sort of their bellies and just eating. So they start to freak people out about, you know, and like, so they've taken a break from murder now. Though Gonta is like, scaring them is no good, you have to kill them. All the while we have like a narration in this movie, which I don't think the film needed. Like I say, when I mentioned about the film being a bit preachy, and you know, you don't really by and large have a much sense. There is like a character, but there's no like sort of real lead character to latch onto as a viewer. Two of them set off to find some shape-shifting masters to aid them. Shokichi and Ukyo sort of develop a bond, as she wants him to call her pretty, and that night they pretend to be spirits and sort of scare some workers. However, more workers just arrive. So autumn is coming, and an exhausted Tanuki arrives. Hayashi, who is from some woods over the mountains, and informs them of some dirt that is being illegally dumped. Winter comes, and they still haven't heard from the ones, if you recall when I just said they set off to find these grandmasters. Some workers watch them push a bulldozer off a cliff. So it's that season again. They're all a bit, frisky, shall we say, and they sort of can't contain themselves any longer. So Shokichi, however, wants to refrain until they have won the war. Though Kyo kisses him, and they have 4 babies before you know it. So with this, more mouths to feed. Even the Tanuki that can't shapeshift agree to help in the fight. You even see one of them get run over, which is, like I say, quite barbaric. There are moments in this film where it looks all fun and light-hearted on the surface, because like I say, it's a Studio Ghibli movie. You think, okay, I'm going to go into a happy place. But this movie, it is quite dark. It is quite barbaric. Like I say, one of them gets run over. Shokichi wants to teach road safety and rescue squad for those caught in traps. Even have a moment where Hothead Gonta does a coup d'etat and holds everyone at gunpoint as he wants to attack. Though, as I say, all they seem more concerned about is food. So these masters come along, who are these super jazzy elders, right? Who actually, they get a taxi. So they tell them that where they're from, they are worshipped, and the humans know not to interfere. So the next plan they're going to do is Operation Spectre, which basically involves them transforming themselves to ghosts and floating spectres, which locals are marvelling at and loving with. They're loving it, right, with all these transformations. They're not. It's not getting to them. I love how you get these 2 old guys having a drink, convinced what they are seeing is not real. And honestly, the warped imagery behind them is something to behold. Huge skeletons, you name it. And this bit in the movie, visually, it is fantastic to watch. Even scaring some kids that are reading a magazine called Ways of a Pervert. It's a very trippy scene though. So despite their efforts, no one is bothered by it, and one of the elder masters dies. However, our group of Tanuki are convinced they have won. And what is so off about the film though, so you understand their cause and their messages that it's trying to get across, but it's hard to get fully on board when they just hate humans so much, right? I know the human race is not perfect and we still have loads to learn and everything like that, but in this film it's almost, although it's anti, pro-environment and things like this film is almost anti-human. Right, you should be ashamed of being who you are, and it's when there's murders being committed and everything. It's a bit okay, But people on the news think this ghost parade was, because that's what they did. They staged this ghost parade. They thought it was an advertisement for a new amusement park. Ryotaro is a shape-shifting fox, and he invites one of the elders, Kincho, out to a swanky room and says there is no future for raccoons and most foxes have had to shape-shift. Basically, they're living as humans now, okay? So they've shape-shifted and they're living as humans. Even advises them to go work for this Wonderland amusement park so they can make some money, and that they abandon the other foxes who couldn't make it. So they decided to let the humans know they did it, right? So they call the TV station, they send out letters, and they go on TV, right? So you have to love how they post it in the mail, and they also managed to get stamps as well. So their master Hagi takes the ones that can't shapeshift into Buddhist dancing cult of all things. Master Kincho, after staging this building as part of a Wonderland in the shape of a cat, gets some payback and takes off with some money. I'm just sort of crashing through the end here, sort of just wrapping up. Gonta and his team have a face-off with the authorities in human form, using their testicles as hang gliders to bomb the enemy, swinging them at, they're swinging them at them and all sorts. Then this news reporter wants an interview, right? Once an interview, Granny comes out to meet her and says this is for our home. Then they again stretch one of the elders' testicles after the battle that Gonta had to make this ship that is going to take them to the afterlife. And they really didn't skip on the scrotum participation in this movie. It's not just done once or twice, it's done a hell of a lot. So Bunta, one of the Tanuki who set off at the start of the movie, comes back and can't believe how much the land has changed. Out of nowhere, the forest starts sprouting loads of greenery, trees and branches, and they bring it back to the past, including dead relatives, and are looking basically at how it used to be. And as I mentioned earlier, the film I believe it should have wrapped up 15-20 minutes than what it did, because it does seem towards the end it is like a bit of a slog. And bearing in mind, like I said, the most part of the movie is just them sort of playing pranks on the humans, or like I say, killing the humans or whatever it may be. But they sort of like looking at the land how it used to be, and at the end they know they have lost the battle, though they believe they've had a positive impact. And those that can shapeshift start living as humans, right? They just start going to live as humans, insofar as they're saying, I have a desk job now. And some have even got into real estate. I mean, really? Really? Okay, so they have just gone to get these jobs with no sort of background, no sort of references, no, like, that they just got into real estate. How that works, I have no idea. But again, it's sort of a fantasy type movie anyway. So there is a nice message at the end of the movie, if a very obvious one, about think of your environment and the creatures that live in it. And as mentioned, I just felt the film was too long. But Pom Poko is a film, a Studio Ghibli movie that's really divided fans more so than any other. And I've talked to many people over the years. Some people love it, some people hate it, or some people just dislike it, or some people, I think, you know, the charm and magic of it was lost on them. I don't think it's sort of necessarily as classic as some of the other Ghibli movies. There is still a lot to be enjoyed here, but as I say, my main gripe with the movie is it is a bit overly long, and it doesn't quite always hit the mark, this movie. But you still, I think, if you are a fan of Studio Ghibli and the Studio Ghibli movies in the studio, you will still have a lot with Pom Poko once you see it. But to say, if you're new to the whole Tanuki thing and sort of their scrotums and everything like that, just be warned when going into this movie. So thank you very much indeed for watching. Hope you enjoyed the review. I'll see you again soon.
Don't concentrate on the finger, or you will miss all that heavenly glory.